Nick, what was your reaction?
All right, so I listened to this entire interview, and we're going to play other pieces of it throughout the show. I understand a lot of what Aaron's saying, and I agree with a fair amount of what he's saying. That part right there, I do not agree with at all, where he says, why would I re-sign here if I didn't like the head coach? Because you have no choice. Because in the NFL, you're never going to be a real free agent. Aaron Rodgers would never hit true free agency. That's a legitimate thing to say in basketball or baseball. If I don't like it here, why would I re-sign? Because they don't have a franchise tag.
A question to you. Did Aaron Rodgers play this whole season?
What? Yeah, he played this entire season. He got dinged in the first game, but he played the whole season.
And what happened to him last year?
Last year he got hurt.
Oh, okay. So the reason why you might sign is the last 2 years.
Last 2 years you've dealt with injury. This year he played every game but was dealing with injury, and the previous year he missed a large part of the season. Like, that part I do not... I think he was trying to put a very happy face on what turned into a rough relationship with the head coach.
Yeah.
I think that's clear. But I will also give him credit, because this article, while it went hard at Aaron Rodgers, it crushed Mike McCarthy. And if Aaron Rodgers took a different tact in this interview, which is confirm some of the Mike McCarthy stuff, it could really hurt McCarthy's future employment, and it could really hurt Mike McCarthy's standing in the league. So he propped up the coach, whatever their issues were. And I understand Rodgers' frustration that our friend Greg Jennings, when asked about his thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, gives his honest opinion. And I'm sure that frustrates Aaron. And Jermichael Finley, when asked about his thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, gives his honest opinion. Where his main point of frustration, I think, was from when he alludes to the Mark Murphy stuff, like anonymous sources that are supposedly current teammates. And he says in that interview, he's like, it's the same two current anonymous teammates. And I don't know if he knows who they are or has a feeling who they are, but they weren't just talking to former teammates, they were talking to current teammates. But in general, where I will defend Aaron is I think we do this so often, whether it's evaluating Russell Westbrook, whether it's discussing how good a player is or isn't, we go from overprotecting a guy to picking every single piece of the guy apart. And I think Aaron Rodgers...
Did it with LeBron this year.
Sure. And I think Aaron Rodgers was a guy that for a long time, when the Packers won, it was because he was great. And when they lost, it was everyone else's fault. And over the last 18 months, people have started to say how much of this is on Aaron Rodgers. That part's fair. And then some people started to say, you know what? All of it's on Aaron Rodgers, and that part to me is ridiculous. So I understand his frustration, but I don't think Ty Dunn of Bleacher Report made this article up out of whole cloth. I think Ty Dunn developed sources, and whether or not those sources misled him on some points, that I can't speak to. But I don't think the article was written falsely. I think the article was written with what the reporter was told.
Well, from the report, neither Aaron or McCarthy look good.
Correct.
Now, Aaron is trying to, and Aaron has responded to other reports, not quite as in-depth as this one, Bleacher Report, they released, but he's responded to other stuff in the past. So he hears what's being said about him. Some of those things are true. Some of those things aren't true. As a talented player, when you have not had playoff success, and we have seen in an era where he's been here, Eli's won 2 Super Bowls, twice as many as him. Ben's been to 3, all right?
1, 2.
1 or 2. Like all these other quarterbacks that aren't nearly as good. They got more Super Bowl trophies than Aaron has. So he's going to be criticized even if he was a great teammate. Russell Wilson's been to 2, won 1. Why hadn't Aaron Rodgers been back to the Super Bowl? McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers have been part of the problem. The front office, they didn't support him. Their defense was atrocious. Why don't they have some type of running game? Why isn't Aaron open to new, innovative ideas offensively? Both of them, they're all guilty of all those things. The organization's guilty, not supporting them. So you have seen that. That's why people lost their job. That's why the head coach lost his job. But for them not to reach their potential, Aaron has to take some of that blame. Now, there's no way Aaron Rodgers is going to speak out and take all that, because that article, man, that article was brutal. It made him look worse than people had thought. And I can understand Aaron's saying, oh, the people who don't like me, this only helps them out. No, I read it independently. I have a lot of Aaron Rodgers information. I've talked to people who've played with him, talked to people in the organization. So I looked at it independent of everything else. And I didn't believe everything to be true. But I know Aaron Rodgers at this point if he's not making some type of adjustments in what type of teammates he's going to be, how much football he wants to learn, the different how he wants to play football, closing out his career, he's not going to appear in another Super Bowl. So for me, he's the most talented quarterback that we have. I don't believe that the scrutiny that he's get is unjustified. I mean, he is off in a special place in Green Bay, and I believe that the NFL and being in Green Bay has helped protect Aaron Rodgers.
How much of everything that came out and what we're now learning, and generally where there's smoke, there's fire, some of these stories and his reputation we've heard for years. It's not that this is the first time we're hearing it. How does it affect what he's going to have to do when he walks into the locker room this year with a new head coach and a team that's going to be looking at him both for as a leader and to get them back to where they once were?
I think that there's always, similar to, remember the Carson Wentz story? And the Carson short that he needed, that people like Nick Foles more, that Wentz was aloof. And
he wasn't approachable.
Exactly. That I said at the moment, whether it was true or not, all the details, Carson could take some nuggets from it and say, I need to improve at least slightly my relationships with teammates. That's the part that, for me, Aaron Rodgers should take to heart. He has had relationship problems, I think, throughout his football career. At the very least, we can say that. And even if he thinks this was a hit piece, what do you call it, a smear attack?
Yeah.
That, even if it was that, even if it's just two anonymous teammates that feel that way, try to make it zero. Try to see what you can do to adjust, because your play on the field is almost unimpeachable. Like, nobody criticizes you for what you do on the field, or very little in comparison to your contemporaries at the position. So see how you can do it when you have a first-time head coach, when you have a fresh start, and when there's not Mike McCarthy as a fall guy there anymore to lay the blame on if the Packers have a disappointing season.
One thing that I can verify from the report, everything that Greg Jennings said is true. Greg Jennings and I have had a long relationship, long before he came to work here, long before he signed a nice free agent deal with the Minnesota Vikings. Him and I had an association long before that. In both of those relationships, I felt like I played a key role. Here at Fox and getting him here, we had a list of people who we wanted, and I vouched for Greg Jennings as far as his credibility, who the man is, what type of football player, how hard he worked and studied and everything. Minnesota signed him to a big deal. I vouched for Greg Jennings there. So Greg Jennings is not one of those people that's trying to elevate his career. He's not trying to sensationalize stories. Greg Jennings is only telling us a morsel of what really went on.
That's what I was going to. Greg, I think, has actually, whether Aaron feels like this or not, I think Greg would be, I don't want to say he's hurt his broadcasting career, but Greg could be in the headlines a lot more with how often we talk about Aaron Rodgers and how many things he won't say on television.
Divulging more about what
absolutely.
Really happened
And it should be noted, and I'm not just saying this because we know Greg, Aaron confirmed Greg's story about the Niners thing. About that Greg said during a game when it was his walk year that Aaron said to a player on the other team, Carlos Rodgers, I think he said it was, you guys should come get Greg in the offseason. Aaron, in that interview yesterday, admitted he said that. Now, he said he was joking, that he thought Greg took it the wrong way, but it wasn't, at no point did he could have said there, I mean, that was false. Go ask the player. He confirmed that part of it. Greg's not in the business of making stuff up. And he did sign a very nice free agent contract with the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think Greg necessarily needs to be doing broadcasting. I think he enjoys doing broadcasting, and he's not trying to hurt relationships by doing it. He's just giving his honest opinion, which is actually still somewhat protecting Aaron at times.
The other part of this is going to be now the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and new head coach Matt LaFleur moving forward, and we're going to talk about that coming up a little bit later. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.